Hello and welcome to Sparky Hobbies. My name is Ben, and today I'm going to go over my uncommons. Last time I went over my rares in Innistrad that I got, and I missed one. Olivia Voldaren. I'm quite happy to get her. A legendary vampire, red and black, and turns things into vampires, does damage, and then you gain control of vampires if you have lots of mana. So yeah, why wouldn't you want this card? Quite happy to get that. 3-2 for one, always good. I mean, I'm very excited to get this in common. I'm less excited with the fact that I only got one. And 1-5 defender in red, not too excited about it. I really like when my defenders in well, I don't like to have Defender in red because I usually use combat spells to take out, Lightning Bolt will take out a small utility creature. I use combat tricks to, +2 to attacker to take out large things. And I would just rather just have a 1-5 that I could step over and ping and, try to get it. Now, it obviously turns into a 5-5 that must attack each turn. That's not too bad. But the defender, I'm not too excited about. I am thinking about building either a red vampires or red black vampires, and obviously the slith ability. I'm perfectly happy with that. Whenever a vampire deals damage to a player, you put a +1/+1. It's combat damage, so can't be an ability. I'm not sure whether abilities that are happen during combat are considered combat damage. I think they are, but that would be a rules thing that I am unsure of. Sacrifice a creature, get deals 2 damage to target creature or player. Um, I guess for late game working it would work, and also if you were possibly playing a blue red build where you need to put creatures into your graveyard so that you could play some of the larger blue creatures later on. In fact, you could possibly build a deck around that where you play a lot of teeny weeny red creatures to get up to the creature count and then sacrifice them to do 2 damage and then, play a scob of some type. Pretty excited about this just because it's multiplayer. It gets +1/+1 for each creature your opponents control, so it'll count up all of it and just make it a huge creature. It's an elemental, and if back in Lorwyn there was a pay 6 red and give one of your elementals trample, so I'm quite looking forward to using this in one of my multiplayer decks. Whenever another creature dies, it does 2 damage to target player. Okay, that's not too bad. Although it costs 6. I don't know. I think it's a little too fragile. Instant, draw 2 cards and discard a card. Perfectly fine with that. I have quite a few, Madness is in red, so you could use it for that. You obviously use it for graveyard stacking and things like that, filtering. So, it's utilitarian. I'm fine with that. Deals 2 damage to each creature without flying. Um, yeah, okay. Not too excited. Into the Maw. Destroy target land. Deals 3 damage to target creature player. Costs too much to be useful. Um, Burning Vengeance. Obviously a very build me around Johnny card that uses graveyard whenever you cast a spell from a graveyard. Pretty excited about that. Wish I had 4 of them. I might. Because I might think about trying to build a deck around it, and it's an uncommon, I might buy this, even though that's a little bit out of a carefree. Enchanted player. Creatures enchanted player controls attack each turn if able. I think this could be more useful in a multiplayer game to make one opponent vulnerable. But other than that, I'm not really sure where I would use it. I do have a contaminated bond deck where I need my opponent's creatures to attack. Maybe I'll try a Curse of the Nightly Hunt in that. I'm very happy to have the whole green mechanic of, power and toughness is equal to the number of creature cards in the graveyard. I think that I'll probably end up using this card and trying to think. I only got one of them. That's sad. But, I'll try it. Okay, so it's a 3/3 uncommon. Gustav Shepherd. What is it? Does it have any abilities once it transforms? Oh, Intimidate. Okay, well, I'm fine with that. Especially 2/2 bear for 2, that turns into better, like an Intimidator. That's pretty good. Whenever Hamilton Captain attacks or blocks, other humans you control get +1/+1. So it's also a 2/2 bear that gets a bonus when entering combat. That's pretty good. I'm perfectly happy with that. Hexproof. Love hexproof. Whenever a creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on a Lumberknot. I think that you could possibly build a very good deck around this because it has hexproof, as long as you got it past the initial one. So there are various cards that make tokens come in and out of play, and or take advantage of like creatures. They only last for a short amount of time, and then they remove like a lot of like put 5/3/1 cat tokens on the board, and a turn remove them, or the other green guy that makes like 3/3 cat tokens, and so I think there's possibly quite a bit of usage to this, and I'm looking forward to trying to build a deck around this. I only got two of them though. Okay, so a 3/3 that turns into a 5/5 and a regenerator. All right. For four, I think it might be a little bit overcosted for uncommon, but I don't know. I'm just gonna. I think I'm gonna just throw all of my. I only got two of them. I think I'm gonna throw all my, werewolves in a green and red pile and build a deck. And I think that's just. I'm just gonna manhandle it because it is a very linear structure. I mean, how are you gonna, do it wrong if you just throw all of your werewolf spells into one deck and you just cut out the best. Put a couple of removal spells or combat tricks because it is green and red. So you're probably gonna want a few combat tricks, maybe just some straight up red burn, and then one Devil's Play to make it use up any extra mana. But the werewolves, especially in common and rare, have mana using abilities. So I mean, you could probably go with 24 land in a werewolf deck or 25 land in a werewolf deck and be perfectly fine because they do have mana using abilities. All right, Hollow End Scavenger, Morbid. When a creature dies, you gain 5 life. It's actually pretty aggressively costed. A 4/5 for 5, and it's an elemental, so it can go in elemental themed decks. I think that this actually is probably more powerful than it appears, oddly enough. This might be a good hidden card in a multiplayer game where it doesn't really look that great, but things die a lot in multiplayer games. I'm actually not too bad with it. I wish I actually got more of these. Okay, so Bramble Crush, destroy target non-creature permanent for 4. It's actually pretty decent, especially in green. Green doesn't really have a lot of removal, and to kill Planeswalker, it's probably worth it. And just because it can destroy maybe an Ink Moth Nexus. There's a lot of utility just because it says, non-creature permanent, and usually green has creatures to block or whatever to use combat tricks. Okay, return 2 target cards random from your graveyard to hand. Make-A-Wish can obviously return itself because when you play a spell, the card immediately goes into the graveyard and the spell goes on the stack. And then when the spell resolves, it will look for itself. So if you want to pay for 4, you can recur this over and over again. So I think that's interesting. I think it might be a little bit overcosted. I got 3 of them. Not too excited about the number. I'd rather have one of the uncommon creatures. All right, put a 1/1 green Spire token in play for each creature in your graveyard. This could potentially be very good. In fact, when I was playing Pack Wars, this actually won me the game. I think twice. Because I got several copies of it, and I was able to, in one game, I was able to play it for 3 and then flashback it and get 5 creature tokens and thing. And then one game, I think I did it for 6. So, yeah, quite happy with that. Wish I had actually got more. Okay, an enchantment. Werewolf creatures get +1/0 and have trample. Regenerate all werewolf creatures you control. I actually kind of wish this said regenerate all creatures you control, because it's actually your human werewolves are more vulnerable as humans. So I actually kind of wish this was slightly different. Gets XX for a number of creature cards in your graveyard. If you build around it, this potentially can be a creature enchantment that gives like +5/+5 for 1. And if you treat it like a sorcery where your creature is going to get +6/+6 to end a turn, and you basically play it right before combat, if they don't have an answer that turn, you're going to give your creature +6/+6, for 1. I mean, that's one hell of a giant growth, you know what I'm saying? But the fact is that it's not a giant growth. It'll actually stay on the board. So this potentially is like way, way, way better than giant growth. Other than the fact that Giant Growth is instant and you can use it as a combat trick. But if you want just straight up damage modification, playing a Giant Growth before you attack, you know, you could potentially get a lot out of it. So I think the fact that it's an enchant creature, it's going to be, I think, underestimated because it is an enchant creature, other than the fact that like it's really super aggressively costed. The 1 mana I think is really, really good. Okay, so it's a 2/2 that becomes a 3/3 and you lose 1 life every up at the end of your end step. Um, I don't. If it turned into a 3/3 for one where it had that drawback, I think it might be worthwhile, especially since like I think the Delver like that's uncommon is has um, has flying, and this is just a 3/3. So I think they could have actually treated it a little bit differently. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus a little bit better. No. All right. Well, okay. So a 2/2 white spirit knight with Timitate. I actually like this better than the first strike variety, just because I think that White Weenie can do better with damage. Only got one of those. That's too bad. 1/3 that exiles target creature, so it's sort of an Oblivion Ring on a stick. It's more vulnerable. Haven't played with it a lot, but it is creature removal, so that is good. Slayer of Wicked enters the battlefield. You may destroy target vampire, werewolf, or zombie. It's pretty. I think I'd rather have a 2/2 for 2 with that ability. But I think in this format, I can understand what they did. They basically went up to 4, which was pretty costly. But it's a 3/2. All right, and I got 3 of those. Man, I would have rather had something else. All right. When it dies, you put 2/1/1 white spirit creature tokens on the battlefield, flying. I'm quite happy with this. I think that it takes advantage of like comes into play effects because you can do it like obviously not during your turn. They're 1/1 flying tokens, so that means that the one guy that puts counters on 1/1 creatures would work. All around, like you're trading a 2/2 for 2/1/1s for flying. So if you had a sword, you would then have some form of evasion. I think that there like are tons of uses for this card, and I'm quite happy with it. How many did I get? I got 2. All right. Well, other spirit creatures you control get 0+1. Um, blah. Not really too excited about the defense, but I really like the art. It kind of looks like an elephant, but I don't think it is. I think it's a man with a long beard and a cloak. How many did I get those? All right, what else did I get? Exile target card from a graveyard. 1. I think in this particular format, it's really good, and it has a flashback of 1. So actually, what's interesting is that with like Burning Vengeance, the enchantment that like does 1 damage or 2 damage target to a player whenever you play a spell from the graveyard, this could actually be really pretty decent, like a shock to it. Plus in the format, I think it's pretty useful, and all right. So I think it has uses. Midnight Hunting, put 2 white spirit creature tokens with flying on the battlefield. Yeah, okay. It's got 2 flying creatures for 3. Yeah, and they have evasion, so that means that they're readily equipable with a sword or something like that. Yeah, okay, I'm good with that. I got 2 of those. Okay. Creatures you control get +2/+0 to end of turn. Alright, so just a combat trick and has flashback. So if you have 6 mana, you can give all your creatures +4/+0, which is potentially good. It's in white with this particular format with, like I said, like white tokens. That would be good, right? If you had 4 white 1/1 flying tokens and you gave them 4/4 late game, they would probably work. Um, it's workable. It's uncommon. Yeah, it's. I think it's at the lower edge of like goodness. Just because like really, I think you're gonna mostly use it to like bump up 1 or 2 creatures to use it as a creature removal. I think that's the most common use of it. The fact that it has flashback and the flashback is pretty aggressively costed, I think makes it a little bit better. I don't know. I haven't played with this card enough to really, I think, gauge it well, but I'm not entirely pleased. I think 2+2+0 first strike. I don't know. Yeah, I trust Magic, so I think they do a good job. So maybe they know more than I do. That's probably more true. All right, destroy all enchantments. You gain 1 life for each one destroyed. I really am not trying to destroy that many enchantments usually, and I play with enchantments, so I don't want to destroy my enchantments usually when I do that. So no. Interesting art. And I got 3 of them. I would much rather have a creature. Creature tokens you have get +1/+0, +1/+1, and have vigilance. I think that this is awesome, and I wish that I got more of those. So that's too bad. Okay, so it's a 1/1 unblockable hexproof. It makes a pretty good uh, spell target. You can cast if you did like some sort of like blue-green deck where you played that enchantment where it gets +X/+X where all the creatures in your graveyard. And you've just had 2 creatures in your graveyard and you're waiting for a third to play one of your good Scob creatures in blue, I think that's pretty good, and the fact that it's unblockable. So, yeah, I kind of wish I had more of those. Alright, so what is it? You draw a card, you discard a card, and if a creature card you discard this way, you may untap it, transform it. Obviously, because you discard a creature card, it works with the Scobs, and that's kind of what they meant to do. It turns into a 5/1, and you must attack, or it turns back into it. It's almost like creature removal, because most likely they will block with a 1/1. So I don't know. I think that this guy's probably overcosted for what he does, because somebody, when you attack with a 5/1, is just going to block with a 1/1. Like, unless I just don't really see it being that great. Flying, return it to your hand. Anything that you can return to its own hand has a capability of being, um, interesting. And it's 2/1 flyer, obviously, because you can remove it from combat and keep on attacking with it. It's 3 mana, so if it was 2 mana, it might be closer to the rare marking, just because you would be able to attack with it more regularly. I'm not too excited about it. And I got 3 of them, of course, because I'm not too excited about it. Didn't really get a good pull apparently on my uncommons, just because I'd rather have gotten other cards. Flying, other spirit creatures you control get +1/+0. I obviously really prefer the attack versus the defense, and I only got 1 of those. Alright. When another creature dies, you may draw a card. If you do discard a card, this is a pretty good way to filter deck, and it's a 4/4 flyer for 5. So I'm totally okay with Murder of Crows. And it's bird, which means I can put it in my bird deck. And I got 2 of them. Alright. As additional cost, exile 2 creature cards from your graveyard, but it is a 6/9 for 6. That's pretty decent, really, all together, and I'm perfectly happy with it. Makes a pretty good destroy exile target. I guess it's kind of does paint a target on itself. I guess it's the only thing I don't like. Dissipate, counter target spell. If it was countered this way, you exile it. I think in this particular format, it's good. It's obviously better than Council, and yeah. Only got 1. Target player shuffles 3 target cards from his graveyard into his library with flashback. If you're going to make this card any good at all, you'd have to really build it around it, and I can't even think of the cards right now that you would really want to build around this. I mean, I guess I could possibly build what is it? The Proteus Staff, where you just flip over until you get a creature card, and then you attack with this really large 7/6 creature, and then it immediately goes into the graveyard, and then you could do it again with Memory's Journey. But maybe that's what I'll have to do. But I think that this is a build around me card that's so narrow that it's bad. This is like, I consider this a really bad card. Awesome art though. All right. Return target exiled card with flashback you own to your hand. Runic repetition. It's pretty costly for a regrowth effect. I mean, it's in blue, but not excited. Put target creature on top of its owner library. Yeah, with blue and mill, this is basically removal. And it, will deny them a spell if, or it'll deny them a turn if. So this could be like almost take another turn if you think about it. Like if somebody plays a creature on fourth turn and you remove it to their hand and you just put it back on their library, you basically said take another turn. So this is kind of like one of those interesting cards that is like take another turn. Let's see if I can get a little bit better. There we go. So yeah, okay. I don't know. Not too excited about it. Probably won't run it. Curiosity. Whenever a creature deals damage to an opponent, you may draw a card. This would be great on that 1/1 unblockable. Card draw. Hello. Super exciting. And I have the old one still. Curiosity. Curiosity's reprint. Enters the battlefield tapped. It's 2/2 for 1. I don't care, and it's not like it has haste anyway. So yeah, I am super happy with a 2/2 for 1. Sacrifice creature, gain life equals to its toughness. I actually have a way to like make a lot of my creatures gain a lot of toughness, and black is a great card for sacrificing. So I'm okay with this. I think it has a use. I really love the artwork, so I'm okay with this. I am super okay with this. A 2/2 flying that becomes a 5/5, and you can choose whether or not you want to, turn it into a 5/5. I think that's pretty good. I mean, if you need evasion, go with evasion. 2/2 flyer. If you need a beefy guy, go with the beefy guy, and it's a vampire, so it can take care of all the vampire, abilities. Village Cannibals. When another human creature dies, put a +1/+1 counter on Village Cannibals. Okay, so it has the Sadistic Glee mechanic, which is insanely broken in usually most multiplayer games. But it says whenever another human creature dies. Now, humans are actually the most common tribe in all of Magic as of now. I don't know whether or not, because they'd stopped printing humans like the last couple of sets, trying to focus on other creature groups. Usually goblins and elves would be the other. Goblins, elves, wizards would be the other big, tribal names. So, I don't know, like, there's enough humans that you could probably see this work quite well just with the statistic leave event, and obviously you can take advantage of yourself. I'm not displeased. First strike, 3/2. Whenever a creature dealt damage by Atar Ghul this turn dies, you gain life equal to its toughness. This card is actually better, I think, than it seems because of its first strike, and I think first strike's one of the most underrated abilities ever. And the fact is that you can play it with a lot of zombie lords, and giving this guy like +4, +1/+1, so it'd be a 4/3, and just attack with him, and attack with him, attack with him, attack with him, and just have creatures die before it, and with the first strike, and gain life off of it. So I'm quite pleased with this card, actually. I think it's a good zombie lord card, to play with the zombie lords. A 2/2 flyer for 4, pretty costly. Whenever it dies or another creature dies, you lose 1 life, you gain 1 life. So it's a vampire. I don't know how well it would go with the other vampire effects, but I think in a sacrifice creature deck, you might be able to do something interesting with it. And yeah, it's just as probably good as, if not better, because it has flying, as a vengeful zombie, which I run in my zombie deck to do basically the same exact thing. Or this one's actually better because it gains you life. So yeah, okay. Death Touch. When it dies, you search your library for a curse card and put it in the battlefield attached to target player. Okay, so it costs a lot, but it's basically, it says do not attack me. If you can make it flying, you could basically say, yeah, if you attack me, I'm getting that curse card. Nothing you can do about it. All right. It's a search. It's a curse tutor basically, and creature removal. So dark banishing plus Doomblade plus curse tutor. That's what it is. It's pretty costly. I think they probably could have costed it 1 less, made it 4, and I think it would have been fine because it's not as good as Enlightened Tutor, obviously. So yeah, I think they could have made it a little bit cheaper. Alright, target opponent sacrifices a creature and you gain 8 type equals to its toughness. It's fine. I think it's very good and limited. So, yeah. I think it works very well in limited. I got 3 of them. I think I probably got something else. Return target creature card from graveyard to battlefield. Interesting enough, like a lot of people tend to play Unburial Rites over Raised Dead effects, which is kind of crazy if you think about it, because you'd rather probably play a Raised Dead over this card, like for all creatures that cost 3 or less. And if you think about aggro, most creatures cost 3 or less. So just the fact that it costs 5 means that if you're going to return something, it better cost 4 or more. Like if you're going to return something to the battlefield with this card, it better cost 4 or more. Otherwise you should be using like Raised Dead effects just because it's just cheaper. And there are plenty of Raised Dead effects that return 2 target creature from the graveyard to your hand. So yeah. But I'm perfectly happy. I need more reanimation, and of course I will probably be returning things that cost more than 4, but I'm just saying is that I see play mistakes where people return small creatures with burial rights onto the battlefield and play, and if you're going to do that, I think that Raised Dead effects are just better. Alright, so put 2 zombie tokens on the battlefield. Much more excited about Army of the Dead, where you put 13 2/2 zombie tokens on the battlefield, but it's a zombie token with flashback, and I'm kind of happy to have token generation in black and that's on a spell, because that doesn't really happen that often actually. All right, so I got to my artifacts. It gets +2 +0 if it's a human. It gets +1 +0. It's pretty aggressively costed, I think, so I'm okay with this. I really do like Bone Splitter, but this gives an extra +1 +0, which is significant. Okay. Inquisitor's Flail, cost 2 and equip 2. If equipped creature would deal combat damage, it deals dumb damage itself instead. If another creature would deal damage to equipped creature, it deals double of that damage instead. Obviously, I think on something with first strike or double strike, this is obviously pretty good because you're going to probably do your damage ahead of that. But otherwise, now what's interesting is I think that it would possibly work very well in a redirection deck where you're okay with your creature taking damage, like if it's indestructible, right? That would be pretty good. Or if you can somehow redirect the damage to your benefit, where target opponent takes that much damage equal to the number of damage dealt to that creature. So, yeah, okay. It's pretty narrow, though. So, pretty narrow. It gives first strike, and as long as it's human, it gets +1/+1. It's kind of a lackluster +1 first striker. I think you could have went with creature gains first strike +1/+1, because giving +1/+1 is not that exciting. But because it's a human, and then if it's a human, give it an additional +1/+1. So that way, I don't know. But obviously, probably the reason they didn't do that is because it's probably pretty powerful in this limited format. So I have to keep on adjusting my focus as I get deeper into my pile. Quite excited about this. I really like the equipments that are giving hexproof. I think that they work very well in multiplayer formats and in not EDH Commander. Yeah, there you go. It gets +2, +1 +2, and has hexproof. Costs quite a bit to equip. Really love the art though. And I'm pretty happy with equipment that gives hexproof. So quite happy to get 2 of those. And 2 I think is the right number for me. I don't think I would have wanted that many more. Butcher's Cleaver, it gets +3 +0, and if it's a human, it gives lifelink. It's sort of like the Luxodon Warhammer, but Luxodon Warhammer, of course, is way better because it gives trample and lifelink. So I think they could have probably used the equip cost at 2. Not too excited about Butcher's Cleaver. Whenever a equipped creature attacks, defending player reveals top cards of his library until they reveal a land card, and this creature gets +1/+0 for every land revealed this way, and that player puts that many reveal cards into his or her graveyard. Obviously, I think this card will be interesting more for milling later on, of course, um, because it's more likely that you're going to probably mill more cards than do damage because people will block your creatures. But I don't know. I think it's pretty costly, and in this format, it's obviously terrible because there's tons of flashbacks and things like that. I don't know. I'm gonna have to look up interesting decks with Trepanation Blade, to see what people are what people are doing interesting things with it. What interesting things people are doing with it. There you go. Uh, I got a couple of them. Oh, three of them. I think that's like one or two too many. Equip creature gets +4/+2. Sacrifice a creature to equip. Costs 4, and it comes with a sacrifice a creature equip cost. I think you probably could have went with 3, but all right. Well, that's just me. Not too excited about those. Taxi Churn if able, just like the Juggernauts, any Juggernaut. It does not untap during its untap step, but it has sort of a morbid mechanic, which is that whenever another creature dies, you untap it. Because it's 5/5, most likely things are going to die every single turn. You're going to attack, and he's going to probably block. So I think that this is actually a very well built card. You're not guaranteed that it's going to untap, but I think it's going to untap most things. And it's a 5/5 for Dinner Vendor for 4, because most likely you're going to attack, and he's going to block, and you're going to untap it. So you're going to have a 5/5 blocker. So even it's almost has vigilance, it's almost there. So I think that this is probably going to be an underrated card, and I'd really want to probably draft this. I would look for this card in draft. When it enters the battlefield, when Geistcatcher's Rig enters the battlefield, you may have it deal 4 damage to target creature without flying. With flying, sorry. It's a 6 for a 4/5. I think in drafting green it would work really well, because green always has problems with flyers, especially powerful flyers. I think it's good against the whole vampire mechanic, and it's pretty costly though, 6 for a 4/5. But I think that the card advantage is worth it. I think that's why it's costing 6, and why you'd probably still want to play it, is because you're still going to destroy a creature and have a creature on the board. Obviously, if you're targeting a 1/1 flying token, then you're not really making a good use out of this. If you're taking out some sort of Bloodline Keeper, 2/2 flying vampire with an effect, then obviously I think this card's going to be way more valuable. It's probably underdrafted, I would imagine, although I have not played draft yet with Thing. I'm just making this up from what I've seen of players choosing it. I would probably run this in draft, just because I could easily see it as taking back control of board position. If you have some 2/2 3/3 creature with flying that's killing you, and you need to get back on top. But I only got one of those. It's kind of disappointing. I guess that's okay. It's not that great of a card. Exile target card from your Zero graveyard. If it's a creature card, you gain 2 life. The Graveyard Shovel. I think it's awesome for theme. Not so exciting for... Most of the time, I don't want to exile my own creature cards from my graveyard. Alright, Cellar Door. What is it? Tap 3. Target player puts the bottom of his or her library into his or graveyard. And if it's a creature card, put the 2/2 zombie token creature into play. It costs 2 to get out, so that's alright. And getting a Scathe Zombies, is probably pretty fine. And because it affects the bottom of your deck, I don't think it's really that big of a deal. So yeah, I think it's perfectly fine. I got 2 of them. Ghost Quarter. Man, I wish I got more of these. I only got 1. 1, the art is awesome, and 2, you sacrifice it and destroy target land. I mean, land destruction, especially to get rid of some of these Inkmoth Nexuses and some other things, are really important. So I can't believe I bought a box and only got 1 of these. That sucks. But pretty excited about Ghost Quarter, and happy to see it reprinted. All right, so that's it. It's been a really long video. I apologize for that. If you liked the video, please thumb up, and I hope you have a good day. And I hope that I didn't totally bore you with my uncommons, even though they're just uncommons and not rares. So, but I wanted to get this unboxing done so I can start building some decks, and hopefully I'll be able to bring you that. And maybe I'll just throw all of my werewolves in a deck, and you can see that. I don't think that I really have quite the cards for a red vampire build that I've seen. I really would like the one rare vampire that's a 2/2 red vampire that like has the slith ability and it has haste. I think it's for 5. I think that's pretty good. But all right, so I'm gonna let you go. Have a good one. Bye bye.